So welcome to this webinar on You Promoted Them and Now What, right? We are promoting our high achievers into leadership positions, and they really need to become that leader that focuses in on people and give their team what they need. So that's what we're talking about here today. I'm Stacy Larson with Authentic Edge Leadership Development. I'm a leadership coach, a leadership educator, and a consultant who works with mid-sized companies, in particular, those who want to get people's people skills a little bit leveled up and maybe come at it from a different perspective, a different approach than the typical traditional leadership development classes, workshops, and coaching that we tend to do. Because to be honest, we don't have 8 months to certify a leader in coaching skills and then let them implement it before we need them to be quality people leaders, right? So we want to get something going faster. So today we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the mindset shift that your high performers need to be good people leaders and why they struggle with it. We're going to talk about what they need to do differently. In particular, three things they can do that make the most difference that we should be focusing in on. And number three, we're going to talk about leadership development options that actually work better than the typical workshops, classes, and whatnot, right? So let's get started. I'd like to talk first about the gap between the mindset of where our high-performing leaders are now versus where we need them to be. Think about it. Think about those high performers that you just promoted. What's that gap? What's happening in their mind now? What do you hear them saying now compared to what you'd like to hear them say when they become more people focused? Here are a few things that I tend to hear. I tend to hear when I'm talking to a high performing leader who just got promoted that it's their default to think, I'm supposed to be in charge. I'm supposed to know stuff. When people come to me, I'm supposed to have an answer for them. And these are the things that actually make them nervous and keep them up at night. What if I'm not going to have the answer? What if I look like I wasn't good enough to really be promoted into this position? Like I don't know what I'm talking about. They think they need to be making sure things get done, that they get done on time, that they get done well, that the clients are happy, that their people are happy. These are the things that a manager is typically focused on. Answering questions, getting products done on time. And in this newly promoted position, whether they're young, whether they're old, or anywhere in between, most people don't want to be seen as the boss. That's another thing that keeps them up at night. They want to be that collaborative leader, that coaching leader, right? And this is different from where we need them to be. Where we need them to be, those of us who've gone through this journey and have become more seasoned leaders, we know that it's not about knowing the answer. It's not about telling people what to do. It's not about being the person who makes sure it gets done. It's really about coaching people. It's really about delegating, which is really hard for leaders to do when they're stuck on that management side. It's about teaching people how to fish for themselves rather than telling them what to do and being frustrated when they don't get there. Leadership is all about growing people, empowering people, not getting everything checked off on the to-do list, right? So how do we get our people there? How do we get them to this place that we've been through, where for the first half of our career, we spent it doing and getting rewarded for the things that we did, the high achievements, versus the second half of our career where we become leaders of people and we learn how to be still, be confident, and empower people and watch them grow and help them grow and help them tweak their skills so they can do it even without us. And that's enough. How do we get people there? Well, you can't just tell them, I'm afraid. My friend, we cannot just tell them. And this is what we're currently doing with our classes and our workshops and our leadership books. We are telling them that they should be people leaders, that they should be present, that they should be vulnerable, that they should coach people. We're telling them, but we're not teaching them. And when we try to teach them, we're giving them this fire hose of so much information in a workshop that lasts all day, all week. It's too much. And then we leave them to go implement on their own. And it doesn't stick. And we're surprised by this. Not anymore. What I have been doing with my leaders that I work with is actually honing in on the three most important things that those leaders need to be doing. It's not all these vague terms, be present, be vulnerable, delegate, empower, don't micromanage. These are too vague and hard to sustain. So what we need to do is have them have conversations over and over and over again that are most effective. And so I teach leaders how to have 3 conversations that are the most impactful, that employees crave, they want so much of. Number 1, expectation setting. If you look at any of the Gallup data, any of the surveys from employees, what do they say? They want clearer expectations, that in order to be successful, they need to be more clear. Well, my friends, this is not about teaching leaders how to give perfect instructions or how to delegate perfectly. It's not about that initial delegation. It's about delegation or expectation setting conversations all along, again and again and again. We don't get it right the first time. So one of the practices that leaders need to have is to frame up expectation setting conversations and engage the employees in talking about what is it that they're getting from that, and hearing and listening to whether they understand the expectations or not, and having a full-fledged dialogue so that both people are confident that they're on the same page, right? And number 2, we need to have alignment conversations frequently. Why? Because when leaders delegate, they get nervous. The longer that goes on that they have not heard from that person, and the longer that it goes on, the bigger chance that the product, the end product, is going to be very different than what they talked about originally, because stuff happens, right? And we can't control or anticipate all the things that can come from the outside that would change along the way. And the employee doing the work, they're just going along and pivoting as they go. But if we're not bringing the leader of that employee back together to have alignment conversations on a regular basis, how does that employee get coaching to do it even better? How do we keep that leader involved enough and getting enough information that where it ends up is not a surprise, where they're going to have a problem with the final product, or wish they would have given more information along the way. Alignment conversations mark progress and keep people going, keep the motivation high. This is super important. Alignment conversations are about feedback, right? And thirdly, I teach leaders how to have coaching conversations, not telling conversations, not solving conversations, not fixing conversations. You know, I was just showing this document in a class recently, and if you want a copy of this, let me know. Just DM me and I'll send it to you. But leaders really struggle with, you know, when your expert shows up. When your expert shows up and you're trying to be the expert, show that you know, it does not help the employee get where they need to go. Your fixer can show up. Your judge can show up. This isn't good enough. Why are you doing it that way? Right? Instead of your partner or your stakeholder showing up, where you feel actually like you can coach that person and not try to control everything that they are doing, right? How do you get that person to show up and have a coaching conversation? How do you not have to take an 8-month class, right, to learn how to be a coach? How can you just know the typical go-to coaching questions that work for you and your employees that you can come back to again and again and again and again to have coaching conversations where you're letting that employee drive? You're trusting them, they feel empowered, and you're having the coaching questions that can make it even better and help them grow. So again, the top 3 things that make a difference isn't everything under the sun that we're learning how to have difficult conversations, how to coach, how to empower, how to be present, how to do mindfulness, how to do EQ. It's too much. What leaders really need is to know the 3 conversations they should be having with their people on a regular basis and have a little mini agenda for that, where they can do expectation setting at a quality level, alignment conversations at a quality level, and coaching, and stay in the coaching seat, not in the driver's seat, and to do any of these things in 15 minutes or less over and over and over and over again with their employees, so that as the deadline approaches, we're aligned, the person is doing the best that they can, and they don't feel micromanaged at all, right? This is what we need to do with our highest performers. I actually get leaders that I work with to this place in 6 weeks. And I do that not through a huge workshop. I actually do that through mini lessons once a week, and them going out back to the dance floor that they are grooving on in their team, and having them start to have these conversations with their people, having them try out and figure out what their go-to coaching questions are going to be, having enrollment conversations to help them get the employees involved in having these regular check-ins with them, and understanding that they're meant to be communication back and forth and a dialogue, and not checking up on them, which feels really creepy in the first place, right? Let me tell you about this development option that has been working for the leaders that I work with and I so much better than any class I've ever ran, so much better than a huge coaching engagement, which is more general and working on people's approaches. This 6-week check-in challenge that I have been running takes leaders who are even skeptical at running coaching conversations or how check-ins might work for them differently or better, And it actually changes and transforms how they work with their people. Let me tell you about Steve. Steve got promoted and put in charge of 10 people in his department who were managing a huge construction project with all the electrical on a site. And he came in because the leader had left that department. And every day, all day, I asked him in the first check-in challenge, how do you do your check-ins? And he basically said, I don't have time for check-ins. My day is a revolving door of people coming to me. What do you think about this? Well, what should I do about that? Hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And I said, well, Steve, what would you prefer your day to be? He said, I actually love this, but I have no time to get my own work done. So the first thing that we did was we carved out time for him to get what he needed to get done, and helped him to start looking at what are the 3 types of conversations he needs to have instead of all this problem solving, all of this where he's the knower and they're the subordinate. What if he flipped it and put them in charge, talked through a plan that they were going to go on, and then set the next check-in where they would come and check in with him, and he would coach them on what to do next, not just answer a question at a time. And it began to transform how he worked with them as a leader. Instead of being the person who solves minutia and the person in charge, he became the guy that they came to on a regular basis, on a scheduled basis, and he knew how to help them mark progress and grow them. He became focused on growing them instead of getting the project right. And it made all the difference in the world to his stress level and to his ability to support that team. They became a stronger team for it. A lot of leaders say that they don't have time to go to leadership development workshops and be gone all day. They dread the emails that they're going to get when they come back. This is another reason why the development options that I have been choosing lately and creating lately have been all about how do we take 1 hour at a time, teach just one component or one step, and then have them be in this lab where they go and they do it and they come back again. Again, it's this idea of accountability. They know they're coming back the next week. They have to prioritize the people stuff. They can't let everything take charge, because 1 week from now, they're going to be in front of me and their peers to say, here's what I did and here's what I need help with. It's also modeling the check-in process in the way we set up the course, the leadership lab, and they're seeing and experiencing how it happens, which makes it all the more powerful. By the time they get to the end of 6 weeks, my leaders that I'm working with have had the necessary conversations and come back and said, well, I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think that was going to happen. And I, as a coach, love the idea that I get to be with them and support them with all the unanticipated things that come up and help them find ways to integrate the concepts in their own unique style and situation. It has been transformative for me as a coach as well. If you are interested in looking at something like this check-in challenge or exploring this idea for leveling up your leaders' people skills in your organization, please reach out to me and let's have a conversation. I can only imagine what it would be worth to you if you could have leadership development that your leaders want to come to, that they don't drag their feet on implementing, that they put it in place, these conversations in place, and they don't feel like they have to do everything but the kitchen sink as a leader. They know they just have to have 3 people conversations over and over and over again. How liberating will that be for them? How much confidence will they have? And how much more of a people leader focus will they have in their work? What would that be worth to you? It is priceless for the leaders who have participated and have greater confidence in their conversations and go from how's it going in a checkup to talking about the meaty stuff and giving coaching help and questions and advice to their people on a regular basis, right? It means the world. So, Stacy Larson, Authentic Edge Leadership Development. Send me a DM or email me at stacey@authenticedge.com and check out my check-in challenge at authenticedge.com. The next one starts, we kick it off on March 20th, and I'd love for you or your leaders to join us. Let me know what questions you have.